Greetings there, comrades! What you are seeing on screen right now is footage from a MILSIM-ish event in northern Denmark on Ammo Ground Airsoft. It was in fact recorded almost exactly a year ago, and there is going to be another one of these events this year as well. So with this event coming up, I figured it was about damn time to get rid of this 150 gigabytes of footage that has been clogging up my PC for the last 12 months. So without further ado, we should jump straight into it. So we start off in the evening of day 1, not because the event started late, but because it had been raining all day, and I was a little bit scared my, at that point, pretty new scope cam would get damaged since it is not water resistant.
Somebody please fucking kill me. It's raining a lot.
But anyway, I'll tell you what happened next. I and my squad began a long sneak mission along the edge of the field to reach an objective fairly close to the enemy spawn. Since we are so good at sneaking, we arrived at our destination without having to engage a single enemy. Once there, we started to wreak havoc and began trying to open up the objective, which was a big wooden box that had a lock we had to figure out the code for. It took quite some time, and eventually, as it got darker, we began losing our defensive perimeter and decided to bring the entire box back to spawn. It was quite heavy and required 2 men to carry. We also had 1 man assigned to protect the carriers. I don't fully remember, but I was either a carrier or the protector of the carriers. It was getting extremely dark at this point, as you can see, and our squad got separated in the dark, with tons of enemies attacking, searching for the objective. Some of us got slain, whilst others retreated. The 3-man team with the objective was completely cut off from the rest of the squad, and we decided that our only hope to deny the enemy their victory was to quickly bring the objective and hide it in a tiny shed next to a road. We got inside just in time as soon we heard an enemy pushing up and taking cover behind the very shed we found ourselves inside. All 3 of us, myself, Christopher and Jebbe, stood there inside the 1 or 2 square meters shed, hoping he would move on. When nobody was firing or getting shot outside the shed, the only thing you could hear was the breathing of us 3 inside. That's how quiet it was. Never before have I experienced normal breathing noises being that loud. The shed was built out of thin metal sheets, which it felt amplified our noises. Despite this just being airsoft, I was honestly terrified, and I was certain that the enemy would hear us. I wondered for a second how even more scary this would be if it was the real deal. For a good while, everything was completely quiet. But then, more footsteps, and someone slamming into the left side wall. He started chatting with the enemy we had heard previously, who was also still right outside. It seemed they hadn't noticed us, and soon they shouted to their commander that the area seemed clear. Would they now finally move on? Complete silence. Suddenly, one of the enemies shouted to his teammate, "There is someone inside the shed!" The silence inside the shed was immediately broken. Christopher grabbed his pistol and covered the door, while I and Jebbe dashed for the objective and quickly started covering it with whatever we could find in the shed. This was our ultimate last chance to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, to hide the objective from the enemy, even if our lives could not be saved. Once the objective was hidden enough, I too grabbed my pistol and prepared to fight. Suddenly, the door was kicked in, but that was as far as that particular enemy got, as Christopher promptly shot him. Jebbe had no pistol and was essentially unarmed in such close-quarter combat. He tried to reach our squad with the radio, while Christopher and I consider ourselves lucky that no enemy seemed to fire from a proper angle to directly hit us. That was my pistol. Sounds cute, doesn't it? It's scarier than it sounds, though. We were trapped like rats and hopelessly outgunned, but no enemy seemed brave enough to push in and finish us off. so a slight hope to escape still remained, however unlikely it was. As soon as the enemy shut off their lights, I and Christopher had the exact same idea, to surprise the enemy by pushing out to them.
What? Fuck. Oh shit.
It was a bold plan and didn't work out this time, but it felt better to die trying than waiting for our inevitable demise. Christopher and I were dead, and the enemy soon pushed in. What would Jeppe do without a weapon?
Der er 2 lyde, det. Ja. Er det fjender eller hvad? Det er ikke. Lysbom. Der er 2 døde. Kom ind, mand. Det er vores, det er fint. Er det ikke det? Undskyld. Nej, det er deres. Nej, det er ikke. Så skal vi have noget, vi skal have også, hvad hedder det, coins.
Gutter, vi skal visitere de her folk her.
Vi ser op.
Ja, det var de store.
Medicinsk. Max. Hvad fuck er det?
Han trompet.
Pisshorn. Har han nogle nummer?
Det var sødt.
Ja, det er
So as you could see, the enemy cleared the shit, found and assumed there were only 2 of us inside, and it didn't find the objective. Jeppe had, after hiding the objective, managed to hide himself too in that tiny shed. The enemy later left, and Jeppe, on his own, snuck with the objective all the way back to our base. Now that's what I call snatching victory from the hugest jaws of defeat. On my way back to respawn, I encountered a true legend in the woods.
Hell, is there an Espen I hear? Oh my goodness!
If you don't know who Espen is, well, first of all, I feel sorry for you. He's just this super chill dude who for some reason is next to always on the opposite team I'm in. Well, actually, I think it has something to do with Russian uniforms and multicam uniforms not usual being the most iconic duo you can find. Espen, I'll gladly take some more of that cake we had at the end of this event as a, let's say, a gift of gratitude for this. You know you don't need to or anything, but, well, you kind of do, to be honest. Alright, itself then. Thank you, bye! The next game, we can clearly see me and my friend Daniel here are total professionals when it comes to recording videos. As we both conclude, the angle for the headcam is nothing short of perfect. Yes, maybe if you want to closely examine the leaves and branches on the ground. That mishap aside, I didn't have any more problems during this game. Except for setting up a super cool ambush, but no enemies walked into it. Still kind of sad about that, it was a nice and cozy spot. And the GoPro session trying its best to get me spotted, and some are also getting stuck with the recharge lights on, even without the cable plugged in. And this tree was also hiding half of the previous day's rainfall on top of its leaves. I think it was kind of cursed, this game, come to think of it. The enemy was not coming to us, so we pushed out towards the enemy. There was a heavy firefight going on to our left by the safe zone, so we pushed up this hill to get a good view and possibly flank the enemy.
He's down. There's one more, 2 more on the other side of the hill. Put it down in the fire force. I'll come right side. Is it? The 2?
That firefight was pretty nice, in more than one way because it actually also cleaned my gun a little bit. In the meantime, our sniper, Dine, had found himself some movable target practice. We pulled back to the CQB building over here, as we suspected the enemy's objective was to bring their bomb to this area. It would seem we were correct, as they soon launched a major assault from the entire eastern side. Luckily though, we had sniper support.
The Russian guy at the UV house. Yes, he's at yours 1 to 2 o'clock. 30 meters behind 2 trees.
Swedish dude with the GoPro.
Oh, he's right in front of you, 30 meters behind 2 trees.
Stop op det her.
Blå røg. De rykker. Fuld røg.
They're pushing very quick. One pushing to front door. Keep an eye on front door. From right side, okay. They're also pushing right here. Major assault. They're pushing right here too. Up!
You know, this hill is kind of scary. I think I've been killed 3 times here without being sure if I was really hit, or if it was just something dropping from the trees. It's better to call it out if you're unsure, but I have a feeling that the trees here have more total airsoft kills than I do. Fortunately, I was saved by my friend Michael. He has this very cool AK, which, if I recall correctly, has electric blowback, which is
nice.
I also just love AKs with wood. The enemy was pushing and deploying smokes. Me and my friends don't do weed, so we got the hell out of there. Well, it sounds like my camera wanted to get some deep inhales of that weed smoke before it was too late. From our new positions, we were planning to pin the enemy down once they started popping up over the crest of the hill. But that smoke must have been very effective, because the enemy seemingly halted their advance right there and then. After a while, we instead decided to counter-push. Me and the boys and girls in the south was to draw the enemy's attention, while the northern group was to push forward and flank. I was extremely excited about the drawing attention part of the plan, because I had a perfect tool for the job.
Forward!
Way too quiet around here after such an amazing horn blowing.
Two contacts up here!
En mand op i bunkeren nede,
Oh. Hit!
By the time I was revived, the hill was ours once more. We dug in and prepared for a second assault by the enemy. But as they approached, we were going to do the unexpected and push out towards them. I tried making it as epic as the last push, but I failed the goddamn horn.
Take fire from top of the hill. Okay. Sniper behind the big tree on the top, on the very top. You hit? Oh, you hit. Sorry. No. Okay.
Push on, where are you? Push on. You're on the top of the door. Just push, right on. Keep an eye on your left though, will you?
There's more. Hit it. Nice. Good shot. Fuck. I am too tired. Fuck. It was much more epic last time. Oh man. Do we have the bomb? Do we have the bomb? Let's go, let's go, let's go.
We stole the enemy bomb, quickly brought it over to the other side of the map.
Yeah, I read you. Yeah, sure. Hello. Good fish.
And then, the game was over.
Very good. There we go.
And it was time for the best part of the event. Random off the game talk.
Hello, my Indian brothers in a Russian uniform. Indian unit in Russian uniform.
All your hits!
Hello, Will.
Use blood. Thank you for the game. This is what part of my feeling small. Don't you feel like a child when you touch his hands? Kinda. Smallest hand. It actually is better than the Raptor one. Yes, it does. And that's the worst thing. Oh, it's actually heavier. Yeah, it's heavier than the Raptor too. It's because the Raptor is made of pot metal. Fucking pot metal.
Should we go this way?
Yeah, let's go that way.
Salam alaikum. Huh? Are you shooting my flag? I think it is about.
What is it they always... Daniel? Yeah. Have you guys seen Dine's pistol? Try and shoot down there, Dine. Let them see the BB pack. You see it? It's far. Pretty far. It did shoot further than my AK one.
Yeah. That's nice. It's a DMR.
Meanwhile, these pistols, you can't adjust the hub up, which sucks. But
You can.
what? How? Are you serious? How do you do that? Because I took out the barrel in one at some point. I couldn't find it. Right there. That screw right there. Is that the hub up?
Yeah.
Super tight. Alright, so...
Oh, this gun is crap. It got
No,
pitched.
it was crap. Oh my god. Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, I'm standing with it. So.
Exactly.
Well, I need a good pistol. I don't have any.
I have a good pistol for you.
Oh shit, that's bent.
Which one?
Hey, you have to pay the forening now because you just broke that.
Yeah, shit.
Yes. What a random.
No, it's broke another one.
You just broke the forest.
Yeah, it's all ruined.
The tree is just carved in half. Look at
Shit.
the sticks here. They just fell down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you start a bonfire. No, I had you too hard. Sorry about that. Still sweet. That's the one from Belgium, right? China.
Yeah, these dogs.
How many bullets are in this? There we go.
That's what you were looking for, right? The colibri.
Yeah, I was looking for the colibri. I was looking for the colibri, but I found this one instead.
Anders, there's an ugly ass Peugeot.
Didn't I say the magic words?
Jeg snakker dansk.
No, the other one.
Danish slang. Kan jeg spise dit oksel?
Yeah, but
Kan jeg spise din løbse?
yeah,
Så jeg pratar svenska och du pratar danska. Det är en god idé. Ja, det är en mycket god idé.
Mikael,
Yes?
where am I gonna sleep tonight?
You're gonna sleep with me tonight.
That's nice. Where do we sleep?
Up there.
In the pawn room.
Yes!
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Show yourself, Nikolai.
Shit. Hold kæft, hvad er det?
Casually. Ej, det er godt. Are you happy, Kenneth?
I'm very happy.
Imagine being so poor you have to sleep in a patio. And not a fucking nightclub!
Yeah, over here. Hello.
No? You nice bonfire. No! No!
Oh,
Take the Canadian side.
we're over by the tent team stealing their tent. We're taking their base. This is our base now.
This is our tank now.
This is our tank now. No, but seriously, someone has to get this tank. Whose tank is this?
There's a soda and stuff.
The tent we're bringing.
Yeah, the tent is ours.
The tent is ours. We took your base. This is green base now. Wait. Alright. Oh shit. Alright, are you recording?
You can't say anything else.
Now we're recording.
Alright. This is like the clown car. You can fit so many people in here. Let me get down here. Jebby's gonna sleep. And yeah, it's not the best spot, but you know, it works. Up here, we have Toby. He's like ready for a fight in like 5 hours. Very good. And up here, you fit Daniel, and he passed like crazy. So yeah, but then we have mine sleeping there, but Anders is occupying for some reason. I don't know. And up there.
I'm just making it comfortable for you.
Very
I'm
good.
warming up a bit.
That's
I'm
good.
dropping drops of semen everywhere.
Oh man,
Yeah,
fuck,
right,
no,
right.
shit. And up there,
Up here?
that's the, I don't know, that's where these two guys sleep.
Porn room.
The porn room. And not just that.
One tank for the-
You see here? We even have a one on the roof.
All we really need is so many of these. Alright, it's actually the top. Alright, there we go. Yeah, it's top 10 ghosts on camera. Not scary at all.
No. And that's the clown car.
Yes.
Slash meth lab. Slash, I don't know. It's a meth lab mostly.